All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of 300 to 3000. I am your host, Spencer Sutton, and today I don't have Matthew with me. He's MIA, but that's okay. I've got two great special guests with me. These are two killer marketing folks from our team, from the Evernest team. I have with me McKenna Keller and Kayleen Cohen. Ladies, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so
Thanks for
much,
having
Spencer.
us. Excited to be
Yes.
here.
Well, good. I'm excited for y'all to be here. Um, we've had other people from the show, like other people from Evernest on the show, but this is going to be a special episode because we're all very passionate. The three of us are very passionate about marketing. We're very passionate about um, property management companies, especially Evernest, finding great owners through our websites. And so we're going to be talking really about 5 mistakes that property management companies make when building their website, when managing their website, and then what they can do to fix them. So if you are now, you may have had a third party do your website. You may have built it from scratch. You may have been using a simple WordPress site, whatever the case is. So we're just going to be talking in general some of these things that that you should be looking for to optimize your website to attract more customers. So,
Absolutely.
all right. Well, McKenna, why don't you tell the audience real quick kind of what you do and a little bit about your background, and then I'll ask Kayleen to do the same.
Yeah, sure. So I am currently a content manager at Evernest. I've been here for a little over a year. I started out in real estate marketing actually in college, got an internship at the Remax headquarters here in Denver. And I did a ton of research for them, compiled a bunch of information on potential realtors to market to. So I looked through like thousands and thousands and thousands of websites for agents, some property managers, some insurance providers. So I have a pretty deep knowledge of some of the websites out there. I'm very passionate about aesthetics, so I really
Yes.
like websites that look beautiful and clean and modern. Also, big stickler for grammar, so I hate any typos. So that's kind of how I approach the web discussion. I think I'm more like kind of the front end, and Kayleen has a lot more knowledge as far as the back end goes.
Yeah, I think that's a great distinction. Something also that McKenna does for us here at Evernest is she is the protector of the brand voice in the marketplace. And so all of our acquisitions, when you see press releases, if any of you see press releases that go out, McKenna's the one composing those. She has relationships with different journalists around the country and in these different cities. And then she also will make sure that all the messaging to like just a lot of our acquisition to the owners, to the residents, all of that is buttoned up. And trust me, we've done a lot wrong, but McKenna's come in and shored a lot of that up. So,
Tried to kind
so
of run a tighter ship the last year or so.
yes, it's definitely a tighter ship than maybe when I was doing it, for sure. When I was doing it, there was no press releases getting done. I think Matthew and I were, scribbling something together and sending it to the Birmingham Business Journal or something. I think that's about to the extent that we did that. But we really appreciate McKenna. And then Kayleen, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you. So my background was less specifically in real estate and more specifically in web design and digital marketing. So I was running a digital marketing agency for the last 10 years that helped small businesses and startups in Colorado and beyond craft their marketing strategy and increase the amount of traffic and sales conversions that they were getting through organic search results. I really like to lean into content strategy work, which I suppose is how I ended up as a content strategist here at Evernest. So that was a really good fit. And real estate has kind of always just been like an interest and a hobby. I'm house hacking right now. I have a rental portfolio of one single property.
You got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm really excited to learn a lot more about this industry specifically here and bring to bear the expertise that I have in the marketing space.
Yeah, well, Kayleen's already added a ton of value to the team. She comes on in our small marketing team. She has a completely different perspective. And so just really meshes well with everybody else. And again, just like McKenna said, she's bringing more knowledge from the back end and a lot of SEO knowledge, which we're going to talk to you about some mistakes we see from an SEO perspective, and then just from an aesthetics perspective and from an optimization perspective when people are looking at your website. But I will say this for both of them, they may have, for McKenna and Kayleen, they may have titles that are like, hey, well, we're, I'm content specialists, but they're doing a lot more within the company. And so we're pumped to have you both on the podcast. So why don't we dive right into the subject? Y'all ready? All right. So number one that we have on our list here of the 5 website mistakes property managers make is meta title and description. So Kayleen, we're going to need you to dumb this down for us, for me anyway. Talk about the importance of meta title, meta description, and how we see people get this wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. So for everyone listening who's saying, what the heck is my meta title and my meta description right now, we're going to just back it up. It is the little blue underlined piece of text with a black smaller text description under it that you're familiar with seeing in the Google search results. So when you type in pizza restaurant near me and all the results that pop up, those are the meta titles and meta descriptions of the websites. And sometimes you might notice it is going to say exactly what you want to hear. Here's the pizza near you. Here's the phone number to call, and you're going to click on that website and enter in. And other times you're going to notice that it says something completely else, like here's a great photo of my dog, and you're going to say, oh no, that is not correct. Right. So knowing what our meta title and meta description are in the first place to make sure that we can optimize it and make it into engaging text that people are going to want to click on from the organic search results. So in the case of our property managers that we're working with and speaking to, they want to have that stuff optimized for property management services, my geographic area, click here to learn more, and maybe even their phone number accessible to people in that meta description who might be ready to make a call decision just from the search results themselves. So that's what a meta title and meta description is. And then how we control it, that's a back end task. So for people that have a simple WordPress site, we recommend using a plugin called Yoast SEO. That's YOAST. Yoast SEO, that gives you a free way to manipulate your meta title and your meta description. And like I mentioned, being really thoughtful about how you're going to craft your call to act in that text to encourage users to take the next step from the organic search results into your website and engage. Squarespace also recently released a feature that allows you to update and change your meta title and meta description as well. So that's something that these website managers, property managers, business owners should be able to do themselves with relative ease.
Yeah. So if you have, I would say this, let me ask you this, Kayleen, a good way to test this, would it just be to type in the Google search results that you want to show for and just kind of scroll around? I would look at everybody else's meta title, meta description, find yours and see what it's saying. And then just ask yourself, if I'm an owner of a property, maybe I'm an investor or an owner, one house, one owner, does it say, is this something that I would want them to see and read? And is it going to encourage them to reach out to me? Is that what you would suggest? Like, how else would you suggest them take a look at this?
Well, absolutely. That is something that I highly recommend, not just to confirm what your meta title, meta description is, but also, like you mentioned, to creep on your competitors and to make sure you know where you are in the search results. Because so often I'm interacting with business owners and asking them, okay, well, where do you rank on your top desired search phrases? And they don't know. So that thought exercise of what search phrases do I think are most pertinent to my business that I want to be popping up for? Go ahead and type those in, see where you pop up and how you pop up, because you might be a little surprised. You might say, hey, wait, I thought I fixed this or changed this or made it something else. And here it's kind of misrepresenting my business if it's not accurate.
Yeah, and if I know a lot of property managers out there, smaller property managers, they're managing between, 50 doors, 300 doors. Maybe they had somebody build them a WordPress site. I would just, if you had somebody do that, if you have somebody managing that site, just get with them if you want them to make the changes, or if you feel competent enough to go into the back end of Word, if you have a WordPress site and install Yoast SEO and kind of work through it that way is another good way to fix it.
Yeah, and
Anything? Yeah, I was
I
about to say
wanted to
anything
call
else.
out too. Yeah, I just wanted to call out that Kayleen mentioned at the beginning, like there may be Google search results with totally irrelevant descriptions, and that's because the meta title and the meta description are really easy to disregard. So if you don't enter anything in there, that's when you're going to start getting that random content that's just being pulled from somewhere. So that would be where that is coming from. So I mean, Kayleen and I are adding blog content almost every day. Like even when I scroll to the bottom of the WordPress uploader, like I'm like, oh, I still have to enter the meta title and the meta description. Like it's kind of just one of those extra things that's really easy to forget. But it is really important because if you disregard it, that's when you're going to get that jumbled mess that just doesn't really make sense and, isn't engaging.
Yeah, and we know that this search that people are looking for, let's just say they're looking for Columbus, Ohio property managers or Columbus property managers or Birmingham property manager or Birmingham property management. They really, in my opinion, this is a once in a lifetime type thing. The people who are typically searching in Google, if they're not an investor, they're an accidental landlord, they're one house, one owner. We call them Susie or Steve homeowner. Like they're doing this once in a lifetime. And so you better have this buttoned up because they're not going to be coming back. They're going to click on the one or two or three that they say, well, this looks like a good property management company. They're going to go to the website, they're going to check it out, and then they're going to fill out a form or call if you have your website done correctly. And you would be amazed. I think you'd be amazed at what I've seen pass for property management websites out there, and I do think that there's a lot of room for improvement. And listen, the three of us that are on this podcast know that our website is not perfect. Like we 100% know that. We even had a meeting today to talk about websites. We were talking about websites for an hour this morning. But like I'll remember, and McKenna, you've seen this. There was one property management website that it looked like it was built in 1984 and it had green aliens on it. I had no idea what this website was. So anyway, if you're listening, please fix that. But all right, here we go. Let's move on. Number 2. So number 2 on our list of the 5 website mistakes property managers make, it's navigation. So who wants to tackle this one first?
Kayleen, I'll let you get into the technical side of things.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And I'm also thinking about it from a user experience perspective. So I think it is so easy. Well, let's identify what our navigation is. So our navigation is the series of links, either horizontally or perhaps even vertically along the top of your website that navigate people to the different pages. So like services, locations, contact, portfolio, testimonial, et cetera, et cetera. And it's really easy for that list of pages to start spiraling out of control. We definitely know that on our own end as well. When there's so much that we're trying to cover, perhaps we're speaking to multiple target audiences or we're trying to cover multiple locations. So that is when those can really start to get a little too jam-packed with too many tabs, too much information. And the more cluttered your navigation becomes, the more difficult your user experience is. So we want to think about how we can streamline and flow people through our website to the places that they're trying to end up in the most logical possible pattern. So if you haven't already, another great exercise here is going to be reviewing your website navigation. Are there too many tabs? Does it make sense? If you were quickly looking for property management services, would you find those? Most importantly, if you were quickly looking for contact information, would you find that? So I think that's something where there's a lot of room for improvement. How accessible is the contact page, the contact information. I know we're all trying to hide our phone numbers from robots these days, but when you run a business, you got to put it out there at a certain point.
Yeah.
And thinking about the expectation that you've created for landing on your website. This can kind of go back to that meta description. Did you say click to learn more about property management services? Well, then there should be a tab in your navigation that says learn more about property management services, or at least property management services.
Sure.
So there's good flow there for people.
Yeah, and I really like what Kayleen said about different audiences. Like going back to that exercise she mentioned, I would, put on like my resident hat and be like, okay, now I'm a resident visiting the website. Like, how can I find what I need? And I mean, we have issues with residents submitting forms that are meant for owners. And it's like, that might be a cue that it's like, maybe our residents need better navigation to get to the pages that they need. And you're not even limited to just tabs. Like you could explore buttons. Obviously, there are links that connect the different pages. There's just a ton of ways that people are going to be moving throughout your website. And you don't want anyone to have to work to get in touch with you. Like you want to make it as easy as possible.
Yeah.
It sounds really simple, but it's actually kind of hard to come up with a system that works for everyone.
Well, it's difficult when you've got 90% of your traffic are residents and you're trying to, speaking of navigation, you want to direct them to the properties for rent. You want to direct them to the listings. You want to direct them to the how they apply page. You want to make it as easy and simple and answer as many questions as you possibly can on the website for them. And yet you also want to make it very easy for owners when they pop on, the 10% of folks who come to your website or the 5% of folks who come to your website to be able to say, this is exactly what I need to do. Now, ours has gotten very complicated because we're in multiple markets and it's a big challenge. But let's talk about, I just like to, because I'm sitting here looking at our website and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, okay, this is a desktop is one thing, but also mobile. So let's talk about things. What does it mean to be above the fold? Like, what are we talking about when we're thinking we've got to be able to catch somebody right when they get there and show them where they need to be so they don't have to scroll? I mean, how difficult is that to do when they're, on their mobile phone and you've only got a limited amount of space?
Yeah. So above the fold is a phrase I brought with me from journalism school, and it refers to what was visible on the newspaper when it was sitting on the stand. And so I think it's easy to imagine when you're designing your homepage that a user is going to see every pixel of your homepage, but imagine they're not. Imagine they're only going to see what's above the fold or before the first scroll. And I think that this comes back to expectation setting. What expectations have been set for the users that are arriving on your website by your meta description, by your domain name, by the name of your landing page? And is that expectation addressed above the fold? So again, in the previously provided example, I'd want to see property management services as a headline above the fold. And that would assure me, great, I'm in the right place. I can click the contact button and I really don't need to overthink this. And so I think it should be simple, clean. To McKenna's point, we are looking for aesthetics when we are browsing, when we are those shoppers. So think about what your target audience member is going to be seeing, experiencing when they look at that for the first time. And are they going to think, wow, this is a company that really has its act together, or this website doesn't look like it's been touched in a couple decades. Maybe I'm not going to be calling.
Yeah, that does. I mean, for me, I know when I'm visiting websites to look at different services or products or whatever, if it looks like it hadn't been touched in a couple of decades, I just move on because that's important to me.
Yeah,
but
I'm like worried I'm gonna get a virus. I'm like back.
Yeah, right. I also think that when you hop on this webpage, to your point, Kayleen, it needs to absolutely give very clear indication what you do and who you service and who what products or services you're offering. I think you need to do that very, very quickly. So I would like we mentioned before, put on your resident hat, put on your owner hat, prospective owner, and visit your website as if you're seeing it for the first time. Ask some friends to look at your website. I would even, like, if you have friends in the industry who are not in your same town or whatever, visit their websites, ask them to look at your website, give each other feedback, and then, see what you can do to improve it, because it absolutely, what's going to happen if they visit your website and you're not very clear and not very concise and it looks old and outdated, a lot of times they're just going to bounce right off and go to the next one. And that's why you'll be able to look at your bounce rates and see how quickly people are moving on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and to
you
your
bring up a
previous
great
point.
point.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Kayleen.
Bounce rate. I got excited about that. So Spencer brings up a great point. If you're monitoring your analytics, you can look at your bounce rate, which is how quickly people hit the back button and leave. And I always tell people, if they're having an issue with their bounce rate, to look above the fold, look at their navigation.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, going back to Spencer's point, like, look at your website on a desktop, look at it on your iPhone, look at it on a tablet, your kid's gaming console. Like, again, you don't want people to have to work and be zooming in and trying to click this tiny little link because your site's not mobile friendly. Like, no one's gonna do that. They're just gonna hit the back button and go to your competitor because it's easy peasy.
Yeah. And if you do find yourself and you're looking at it going, wow, this thing needs a lot of work, pay to have it done. Like, get the work done. Don't just push it off and think that it's not important, because it is. If you're trying to grow your property management company, then first impressions are very, very valuable. And I would say, I know there's a lot of property managers out there that use groups like PMW or DoorGrow or 4.5 or whatever the case is. If you have an older one of their websites, go back, refresh your website, get a new design. That's just our advice, our opinion. Okay, let's moving on to number 3. So the third mistake we see here, we just have it written here as content. So you two are content experts. What do you mean by this as a mistake we see people make?
Yeah, I was gonna say this is like the best one for me and Kaylee. We're content heads. I mean, content can mean a lot of things. For us, it primarily means things like blogs. It can mean web page copy. It could be videos. It could be forms. It could be thank you emails. It's kind of anything and everything. It's what makes up your website. And we've seen, like Spencer said, we've seen a lot of poor landing page copy. We've seen a lot of poor blog posts. We ourselves have posted some very poor blog posts. So we know how easy it is to do. I mean, good content is really hard to come by, and that's what Kayleen and I are trying to do day in and day out.
We even had a blog post up from maybe 10 years ago, maybe 2013, that Kayleen uncovered and started making fun of us. But the blog post was called "You're a property manager and an iPad" or something like that. And I think Matthew may have written it like right when he started using an iPad to send property managers out into the field, but it was hilarious.
Yeah, which brings up the point of what is the purpose of the content and what do you want it to be doing? And best case scenario, it's educating your prospective target audience members. So like really valuable content on your website is it provides like triple fold value, because in one aspect, it's a lure. It's luring people back to your website. It's building trust because it's disseminating knowledge and information and building trust. And it's acting as a lead nurturing and lead generating mechanism. So even if you don't feel like you have enough time to allocate to creating YouTube videos or writing blog posts or producing a prolific amount of content. I mean, obviously, we have a prolific team here. We're churning out about 100 unique pieces of content a month as a team. All right, well, Johnny Property Manager, if you've only got an hour a month to dedicate to this, what could you do in the amount of bandwidth that you do have? And it's just all about authenticity and sharing your expertise. So So find the thing that is the most authentic to you. If that's a selfie style video while you walk through a house and talk about how you perform your inspections, or if you're more of a quick writer and you're going to draft up a quick piece of content that's going to go out as an email, just find a bite-sized piece of this that works for you.
Yeah, I believe that's what I started doing when I got here at Evernest. Was I just started going out into the field with our property managers and shooting videos at houses. And I knew, like, at that point I was trying to reach investors. So I was an investor. I had a lot of experience with the mindset of an investor. So I just was in, and we were only in Birmingham at that time. So I just would go out and do walks and record videos. And so even now people will contact us and say, I saw you through some YouTube videos, and we've had that a lot. Now, our name was GK Houses back in the day, so we did a lot of content that was GK Houses. Now we're having to renew all this content, but it absolutely built trust with people. And so when they called us, they felt like they knew us, or they knew who I was if I answered the phone and started talking to them. But I do think, let me challenge all you property managers who are listening to this. I do believe you have the time to do it. All right. It's just a matter of, will you do it? So this is the example I'll give. Matthew Whitaker, it was probably 2016. We're in the middle of growing our company very, very fast, expanding into different markets. And he took on the challenge to record a video every single day. He said he was going to do it for a year. He didn't make it a year. He made over, I want to say he made over 100 videos. And all he did, like, there was no master grand plan behind this. All we said was, we're just going to answer the most common questions through video form. And so when we did that, all of a sudden, we were able to put these videos on our website and say, hey, you have questions, we have all the answers. And people could search by the answer, by the question that they had. And it just, again, built trust. But Matthew Whitaker had the time, or he made the time to do it. And so it's not a matter of, can you do it? Now, I could sit here and talk a lot about, should you do it? Like, should you be on video, or should you find somebody else to be on video? Do you really want to do it? I think we had Jordan Muela on a webinar not long ago, and he was saying, don't record videos if it looks like you're being tortured to do it, because that is not going to be very valuable. However, this is what I would say. Go ahead and record the video, give out all the good information. And if you don't like the video, get the transcript and then turn that into an article. Like, there's multiple ways you can skin a cat. The only reason we're doing a podcast is that Matthew and I don't have a face for video. So we like just doing audio, and that way people can just listen if they want to. But we've done this in Birmingham, we've done it in Atlanta, and then we have a national podcast. And this is all about content. Building trust, in our opinion, is very, very valuable, and it can be evergreen, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and I would just call out quickly too, again, the concept of tailoring to your different audiences. Like, I think it can be really easy to just default to owners, investors. And I mean, even we looked at our web page that detailed like what residents needed to be approved. And we're like, oh my gosh, we haven't looked at this in years. It's very outdated. Yeah. Like, it's really easy to kind of forget that we do have different audiences. And unfortunately, you can't just copy and paste content from one audience to another. So I would just add, being thoughtful about which pieces go where. And they are evergreen, but yeah, just tweaking kind of as you go, because as we've seen over the years, things become outdated quickly.
We could probably spend an hour more talking about copy. And like, one of my biggest pet peeves is looking at a website and all it is an online brochure of who the company, like who they are and what they do. And it just drives me insane, but we don't have time to go into all that. But just know that your content and your copy is very, very, very important, and says a lot to your potential customers. All right, moving on. Number 4 in our 5 website mistakes property managers make: no lead magnet. So let's talk about this. What do you mean by lead magnet?
Right. So a lead magnet, sometimes I call it a download incentive or a sign up incentive. It's a tiny little form. We're all used to seeing them when they pop up in the corner of a website and say, hey, 10% off your first order if you type in your name here, or maybe a really juicy offer. You're going to get a free copy of our ebook if you type in your name and email address. So those are all different versions of lead magnets. So we are attracting the lead like a magnet to basically give us their name and email address. That's the goal, is we're willing to trade you something of value for your name and email address, because nobody gives an email address away for free anymore.
Right.
We all get way too many spam emails. So we're all holding our email addresses close to our chests. And the only thing that's going to convince us to give it away is trading it for something of value, whether that's going to be a percentage off or in this case, ideally a piece of knowledge. So that's my favorite, because I don't actually want to give people a 10% discount. I want to trade them a 10-page PDF that has some knowledge inside of it. So lead magnets are so cool because we can think through them once and let them live forever. They have that evergreen component. So until they're not good anymore. But for the most part, we can
until
leave
they're
them
out
up
of
there.
date.
Until they're not, but
I think probably the most popular one in the property management space, and I think everybody should be doing this, is just the free rental report, because it definitely shows intent to rent their property, or that they're thinking about it. It's something very valuable, because most one home, one owner don't know what their home should rent for. Maybe they have a ballpark figure. They're looking for some type of confirmation that, hey, what I was thinking was correct. And so they will, to them, that's a valuable piece of information. Now, I know there are some providers that it will live on your website and they can enter it, and that report will be automatically generated for the prospect. I'm not a big fan of that. I would rather them, like we have on our website, we have I'm looking for the button, is free rental report. So we have free rental report. They can click on that. They can go to this landing page on our website. They can fill it out. What that does is it populates a lead into Lead Simple for us, and then the BDM is going to reach out to that person. And if they didn't want to speak to somebody, we're still going to want to talk to them. We'll let them know why, because if we can get some more information about their property, we can actually do a little bit more homework and give them a better rental report. And I would say 90% of the time, 95% of the time, people are happy to do that. They're happy to hop on a phone call and say, yeah, well, this is what I was thinking. And and so we ask them a few more questions just to make sure. Plus, if it's a BDM who's in the market, who has a lot of experience in that market, then they're able to say, oh, I know exactly where your property is, and we've rented some houses near there. So it's just a way to build that rapport and get that person on the phone, because I think the sooner you can get somebody on the phone and have a conversation with them and let them hear your voice, you're a real person, then the better chance you're going to have of landing that person when they're ready to rent. So absolutely the rental report. So Rent Range does one. I think Rentometer is another one that a lot of people use. What are some other lead magnets that you could think of? We've done one. I think we still have it on our site. I can't remember, McKenna, maybe you could tell me, the ultimate guide to renting your property. Maybe we took that off. I can't remember, but we were looking for, like, this was a full, probably a 40-page document, step-by-step, how to rent your property, everything you need to know. We went into great detail. Matthew and I wrote it several years ago. We've updated it in the past 2 years, but it's a big, big document.
Yeah, I do think the Rent Range is really popular. That may be our most popular form. Like, we get dozens and dozens of entries, so that's a huge one. We have started in the last couple of years, been doing more of what you're talking about, Spencer. So we have like ebooks. Joel recently put together, he's our paid ad specialist. He put together like a package for investors. So it included like some video content. It included
a calculator for them.
Yes. Yeah. Like a tool. You can go in there and enter all your numbers and it updates live. We have our market analyses, which are like 10-page documents that dive into, our 30 plus markets across the US. So they have housing statistics, they have history, most popular neighborhoods, like all of this extremely valuable information. And I think all of these, they really just tie back to what we were talking about with content, like adding value and educating consumers. And I mean, in the grand scheme of things, the potential client is getting a pretty good deal. Like they're getting all this information, all of these statistics, and we're just taking their email. Like who wouldn't want to sign up for that? It makes it, again, really easy to want to work with us. And that's the goal.
Yeah. Plus, I know we have a checklist, like the Ultimate Guide to Renting Your House checklist. So we took the ebook and then we made a checklist out of it. Any of those things.
Yeah, you're finishing up the guide to selling your company. I mean, that is like worth its weight in gold. Just trying to provide value wherever we can is really like the end goal.
Yeah, I think that what we want to communicate, I believe, to our prospects is that, hey, we want you to succeed. Whether you do it yourself or whether you use us, we just want you to succeed. And if we have their best interest in heart, I think they'll remember us for that, as opposed to us just always wanting their business. And it's the same thing we do with property managers. I mean, really, the reason that Matthew and I record this podcast is we're passionate about helping people develop. We do it with our team here at Evernest, but we also love to see the development and the professionalization of the property management industry. And if we can help property management companies grow, then maybe sometime down the road, when they're ready to sell their company, they'll think of us and they'll remember, hey, Evernest helped me grow. They gave away tons and tons of great free information. And yeah, we'd love to earn their business. So lead magnet are big. If you don't have one, please, at the very least, get a rental report estimator, get that on your website, and you'll notice some leads coming in, I promise. All right. Number 5, this is not necessarily about the website, the exterior of the website or behind the website, the SEO, but it is something that's very important to nurturing the leads and winning business. And that is the number one mistake we see, or one of the mistakes we see: email campaigns. We see property managers that once somebody enters their phone number and their email address, they're not dripping on them. They're not communicating them beyond maybe a phone call. So let's talk about this one. Why is this such a big mistake?
Yeah. So believe it or not, email is actually the most likely to convert marketing channel. And I think it does make some sense, because we've kind of worked our way down the line in this list, even here today, from cold leads to warm leads. Like we're talking about cold leads, they're ice cold burr when they're looking at the organic search results and they're encountering that meta title, meta description. And then they're like lukewarm leads when they're engaging with our content. They're warming up when they engage with our lead magnet. And then they're nice and toasty by the time they're on our email list. And so that's kind of the best practice, final sweet bottom of the funnel, to make sure that we're staying in contact, staying top of mind with anybody that's open themselves up to the opportunity to receive communications from us. And ideally, we're going to stay on their good side by providing educational, valuable content, because we don't just want to be one more promotional newsletter that ends up in their inbox. We want to be something that they look forward to clicking on. And so if you're not taking advantage of email marketing right now, start anywhere. Start with the 10 people that are in your inbox right now. Like start by putting together any list and start building from there, and come up with some sort of cadence. Like Spencer said earlier, I'm sure you can manifest the time to spend, 1, 2, or 3 hours a month working on this to stay in touch with those people and convert your most ready to convert leads.
Yeah, I think the thing about email is, like, unfortunately, not many people are waking up in the morning like, oh, I wonder if Evernest posted a new blog today. Like maybe my mom, maybe Kayleen's mom, but most people are not going to be seeking out our content day after day after day. So it's like we need to find a way to stay top of mind, like Kayleen said, and continually just be nudging them and putting this in front of them because we know that it will be helpful. And email, like Kayleen mentioned, is really the best way to do that. It's going to be the best for everybody. The clients are going to get value and we might, get a new deal. So everybody wins.
Yeah, I think some people are scared to do this, scared to send a lot of emails, maybe because they don't like getting emails. And so they just automatically think, well, everybody hates it. And while we do like to protect our inboxes, I'm just here to tell you, if you drip on them and if you have a sequence and a well thought out sequence and you're thoughtful about your content, you're thoughtful about your copy, you will convert more people. And so the way we do this is we've built out, and actually the three of us are meeting, this is one of our rocks, is to overhaul our Lead Simple email drip. So we do this in Lead Simple. A lead comes in, they're automatically put into given to a BDM. That BDM is reaching out to them, but they're also put on an email drip. And then we also put them into our another email provider that allows us to send them newsletters. Are we sending these once a week or every other week?
Depends on the
list.
Okay, depends on the list. Okay, so yeah, so this would be just like prospects. So if they're prospects, we're sending them emails. The BDM is calling them. The BDM is texting them. So this is very, very important. We will convert more than a property manager who just reaches out one time and never reaches out again. And if you do not have a CRM, if you don't have a system for doing this, if you haven't done this, I want to encourage you to do it, because in your market, in your city, you will win more business than your competitor who's not doing it. And I can't tell you how many we've won that have been months and months and months down the road. And all of a sudden they just pop back up. Hey, I self-managed for a little bit and now I don't want to do that anymore. I've still been getting your emails. I hadn't read any of them, but you still pop up in my inbox. And so I thought about you. Or, hey, I use this property manager. I went with them instead of you all. And now I'm ready to come. I want to come and try you all out. It's not been a good experience, whatever the case is. It's just amazing to me. If you do this and you're thoughtful about it, it's absolutely helpful.
Yeah, I completely agree. And if you can't splurge or spend on a formal CRM, you can make it work with a free tool like MailChimp. You can manage your tags and manage your fields to be able to flag people as leads, flag them as, likely to convert in 6 to 12 months or something like that. So there are ways to kind of DIY this as well.
Yeah, and I would say, as far as copy goes, there are templates out there too. You can find something to work off of when you're setting your system up. You don't have to start from scratch.
That's right. So those are the mistakes, the main mistakes that we see. I'm going to go through them real quick. Meta title and description, navigation. So definitely work on that one. Content, no lead magnet, and then non-existent email campaigns. Now, I think that just if you look objectively at your website and at your processes for sales and marketing, I probably think we have things on here that we need to work on. So we're always constantly looking at our own website and our own systems and going, hey, how can we improve this? I think probably everybody can take something away from this and improve your business, convert more leads. And that's what we really want. If you're listening to this podcast, you really want to grow from 300 to maybe not 3,000, but maybe you want to grow from 100 to 200 to 300 to 500 to 1,000. And we want to help you do that. So ladies, thank y'all so much for being here. And Kayleen, kudos to you. You actually came up with this list and put it in front of us. And we were like, yeah, this works. This is great. So thank y'all both for being on the podcast.
It's a
Thanks,
pleasure.
Spencer. Appreciate it.
All right. If you haven't registered for our latest webinar, we have a webinar coming up May the 4th. It's the first Thursday in May, and it is going to be all about technology, using technology to scale your property management company. We've got some fantastic guests coming on, some industry experts. Matthew and I will be running that webinar, and you can sign up at evernest.co/webinar. And we'll see you in May, and then we'll see you next week with another episode of 300 to 3000.